Hey everybody, and welcome to True Crime Paranormal with this psychic sister. This is Katie Weaver, and I am popping up here on this Friday afternoon. So excited to be here. I hope you guys are well. This is just one of those little pop-up shows that we bring to just bring a little extra content to the table and keep our connection with you guys going strong. So this morning, I woke up to a flurry of tweets from Mr. Mark Means, which made me think we should look at those. We should look at some of the comments because they're hilarious. But moreover, we should look at what is okay for attorneys to tweet. He keeps doing it. He keeps getting away with it. So does it make you wonder if it's okay? Does it make you cringe a little bit? It's cringy to me, and I think he, in my opinion, he's wandering around on the edge of what's okay, but I thought we'd check it out a little bit more. So I'm going to share a few thoughts. This is from Law Technology Today, Twitter 101 for lawyers. It looks like actually very few lawyers use Twitter. 82% of lawyers use LinkedIn. But only about 10% of lawyers use Twitter, mostly because LinkedIn is a little more professional, and Twitter is a site that can get you into trouble sometimes, as we have seen in other cases. One of their tips was always be smart. Like any form of social media, it is very, very important for you to be smart and highly thoughtful when using Twitter, especially as you post content, retweet content, or like content. Always think twice before posting, retweeting, and liking any content, and assume that whatever you do on Twitter could find its way to the front page of the Wall Street Journal and could come to the attention of your clients or your general counsel / chief legal officer. You will be considered as an ambassador for your employer, so please keep that in mind when using Twitter. Well, lucky for Mark, his employer, I believe, is himself, so he's got that going for him. But I feel like that would be wise words to be thinking about. Always be smart. About social media legal ethics and policies, they said, there are various legal ethical requirements for lawyers, and your employer may have their own social media policies, of course. What are the legal ethics? It looks like that's a little different state by state, but there are some ethics about not tweeting confidential things, not tweeting things that could sway a jury or could be out in the stratosphere that don't belong there. Again, it looks like it's a bit of a gray area, but there is some energy there in, being wise. So I found this page from the UNC School of Government, from the University of North Carolina Law School, talking about legal ethics and social media. So I thought we'd run through a few of these, and then we'll take a look at Mark's tweets here in the last 12 hours. I did screenshot them because who knows if they will stay up. Frankly, they probably shouldn't, but knowing Mark, they probably will. So we're talking about Mark Means' Twitter storm. And actually, I think let's go look at the Twitter storm first, and then we'll look at some things that UNC says about, legality and ethics of tweeting. Maybe we need to do that first. So I'm just going to share a screen here with you so that we can go on over to, let's see. Go to Mark's page here. There we go. Okay. So starting here with 12 hours ago, Mark said, an anonymous source contacted me, block number, and said the prosecution is offering off-the-record interviews in Daybell case. Source said refusal to release autopsy results for T. Daybell to her children, referring to Tammy, was an attempt to coerce children to give incriminating statements. I mean, right off the top, first of all, you are using a smartphone, for Christ's sake. That has to help you be able to spell coerce. Anyway, wow. And then, of course, the anonymous source contacted me, block number. That would be block number. Mark, I don't mean to get too specific, but come on, man. It is just not getting better. Anyway, so this is what he's claiming. And he's tweeting this out to the whole world to see that someone is telling him that the prosecution is offering off-the-record interviews, and that, because he's constantly sure that the prosecution are doing unfair and illegal things, and he just keeps trying to prove it, and he keeps getting shut down. So now some anonymous source has, filled him in on the whole thing. So that is the first one. And yeah, that's where it starts. We're going to see a few more. I just want to make sure, can you guys hear me talking while I'm showing you the tweets? I just want to make sure my tech is doing what I think it is, or we'll do this a different way. So if somebody will just comment and let me know you can hear me while I'm sharing a page, I would appreciate you. I agree. Oriana said, I don't think lawyers should use Twitter. Thank you so much. As doctors shouldn't use Twitter. You have ethics, confidentiality, and it's just not a good look. Agreed. All right. Well, let's go back because that's how it started, certainly not how it ended. Okay. We'll look at the comments because some of them are pretty funny. Dude, are you drunk? You should probably get off Twitter before you get yourself into trouble. Someone did share with him how to spell coerce. Let's see. This one really killed me. Attorney Means, has your Twitter account been compromised? I find it highly unprofessional for you to have made the above tweet. You have introduced uncorroborated speculation to a high-profile case, and you are the defense counsel. I laughed for half an hour about that one because I said to my husband, has Mr. Means just made himself a witness? You know how he keeps trying to insist that the prosecution has made themselves a witness? I don't know there, Mark. You might have just done the same thing. We'll see. Once again, or for the third or fourth time, why are you on Twitter discussing a current case? It's highly unprofessional for you, a lawyer, to talk about a current case. And this one, wouldn't Attorney Pryor have access to the autopsy pathology report since his client was charged with her murder? Isn't that part of discovery? He has a right to see the autopsy report so he can refute any of the conclusions, doesn't he? And I'm sure that he does, though he did not have it, I'm assuming, until charges were actually filed. So they have been demanding the autopsy report for months and months, and the prosecution keeps telling them no, partly because that autopsy had nothing to do with the current charges until now, and partly because they didn't have it, because the prosecutor's office, or the sheriff's office in Fremont County, was still finishing up their investigation. But let's keep going. Then he tweets, this is the apparent wheels of justice. Is this really the system we want as citizens of Idaho? A sheriff department or prosecutor that refuses to allow the children to see the autopsy of their deceased mother, and if true, then play off-the-record games? Remember now, this is an anonymous source who called Mr. Means and told him that. There's no actual evidence that that happened. He's just saying someone called him and said that. So he's just throwing stuff out here that with no, that he can't substantiate at all. And again, are these the kinds of things that could taint a jury pool? Are these the kinds of things that could, be considered to be unethical on his part? Innocuous said Means seems to be contaminating his own jury pool with his tweets. Maybe he is the one who needs a competency hearing. Yeah, no kidding. right? I mean, this is going awfully far, in my opinion. Now, he keeps going, but in that tweet, the part that really got me is prosecution in air quotes. Wow. But also then going after the sheriff in that one too. I guess as a layperson, I didn't think it was surprising that the children weren't being given a copy of the autopsy or being had the autopsy shared with them, because it's part of an active investigation. And I'm sure partly because they have acted like they were still supporting their dad. But don't forget that at least 2, maybe 3 of them were called as witnesses in the grand jury. They would not have been shown evidence before that. That just seems so basic. So let's keep going. There is more. Okay. Then Emma has already addressed this matter, referring to Emma Daybell, Chad's daughter, who did speak to Court TV clear back in December, sharing her frustration at the fact that they hadn't let her see her father or her mother's autopsy at that point, and that she had been in contact with the sheriff's office in Fremont County, and that they told her that they couldn't share it with her because it was part of an ongoing criminal investigation. Again, I don't really understand why this is so egregious, but Mr. Means tweets, playing off the records game is contrary to the role of those in authority to seek justice. This is a win at all costs feel. A win at all costs feel, I think, is a curious thing to say when we have 2 murdered children. Do you think, Mark, they're going to pull out all the stops to convict those that have been accused and arraigned for these or indicted for these murders? Why wouldn't they? As the public, that's what we are expecting them to do. But again, you have no proof that there is any off the records game being played. This is just more of you trying to sow doubt into the fabric of this case to try to get a mistrial because it's all you have. Then he says, off the record gamesmanship to attempt to change the narrative clearly illustrates some of those in position of power, in this case, are more worried about their appearance than justice. Again, making really wild accusations with 0 proof whatsoever, and just throwing out anything he possibly can. Like, I just cannot believe, honestly, that these things are happening. That these tweets are happening. I truly cannot. Then he says, as citizens, Idaho's, was Mark drunk when he tweeted all of this stuff? Had he not slept in 18 hours? Like, just the way he writes things, the grammar, the spelling is typical for him. But again, like, just a big wow. As citizens, Idaho, we should demand open books of those in authority. As a person who has lost a sibling unexpectedly, for those in authority to withhold that autopsy for purposes of what appears to coerce forced statements is beyond repulsive. Again, there's no merit to that statement. And then they put salt in the wound. I really wish he'd take a crash course on when to use quotations and when not to. You know what? In fact, just don't. Just quit pushing that button. Just don't use it anymore. You're using them incorrectly 90% of the time. They rarely need to be used. Let's just not. Let's take them out. I think that's a good crash course. By engaging in off-the-record, behind-closed doors gamesmanship. Well, as an old, small-town boy, I'd say, Mark, I don't think you're that old. I'd say to those game players, you can put lipstick on a pig, but at the end of the day, it's still a pig. Now, there was a comment that almost killed me on this one. This gentleman says, you say lipstick and pig. That isn't nice to say about your client. Kind of weird if you ask me. And it was Jolly Rancher, right? Oh my goodness. Oh dear. Yep, that one got me. Not gonna lie. So there you have it. That is a little Twitter storm that Mark went into over the evening. Looked to me like he did that all in the middle of the night. And I just can't quit laughing about it. That comment about lipstick on a pig and everyone asking, are you talking about Lori Vallow? I thought it was Hawaiian Punch, but whatever. I digress. So let's take a look at legal ethics in social media according to UNC. This is the University of North Carolina's law school. They said 96% of attorneys have a LinkedIn account. 33% of lawyers have a presence on Facebook. 10% maintain a Twitter account, and 8% maintain a legal blog. That is likely because they're not using social media very much to avoid having problems with it, right? That's my guess. So they said easily avoidable issues. Easily avoidable issues, right? Many lawyers find themselves in trouble after social media missteps because they forgot the basic rules of civility that our parents tried to teach us as kids. Be nice, play well with others, treat everyone like you'd like to be treated. When we ignore these well-established social norms on the internet, our misconduct is memorialized for ridicule and quite possibly legal discipline. Sound familiar? Here's the first one. They said, think it, don't tweet it. A Kansas Court of Appeals research attorney was fired and subject to bar discipline when she tweeted insulting comments about former Kansas Attorney General Phil Klein during his own disciplinary hearing concerning alleged lies about his agency's investigations into abortion providers. The research attorney tweeted that Klein was a naughty, naughty boy and then criticized his facial expressions during the disciplinary hearing. Why is Phil Klein smiling, she wrote. There is nothing to smile about. They said in parentheses her spelling needs as much work as her impulse control. That sounds familiar too. Later, she apologized, saying, I didn't stop to think that in addition to communicating with a few of my friends on Twitter, I was also communicating with the public at large. Really important to remember. You're not funny, just offensive. This isn't so much Mark, but I thought it was interesting. Oceans of ink have been spilled over the ongoing email scandal at the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. So far, one justice has resigned and one more has been suspended for sending semi-pornographic photos and jokes about minorities and women. The suspended justice argued that his emails were just harmless male banter and locker room humor. The disciplinary board disagreed, concluding that the jokes tainted the Pennsylvania judiciary in the eyes of the public. Now, we haven't seen that, of course, out of Mr. Means. What we've seen are talking about the case, attacking witnesses, going after various people reporting on the case and things like that. But again, these are all things that people should think about if you work in the judiciary before you start throwing them out on social media. Disguises work for the CIA, but not online lawyers. Former Arkansas Circuit Court Judge Mike Maggio is apparently a huge LSU fan, often posting on a popular LSU fan board under the pseudonym Go Judge. Many of those posts were full of offensive jokes and insults to women, while one disclosed confidential information about the adoption of a baby by movie star Charlize Theron that took place in his courthouse. Unfortunately for Maggio, the State Judicial Ethics Board had little difficulty piercing the veil of his pseudonym and permanently barring him from serving as a judge. He won't have to worry about finding a job anytime soon, however, as he'll be spending the next 5 years in federal prison for accepting a bribe to reduce a jury verdict against a nursing home from $5 million to $1 million. So sounds like he was up to a whole lot more than just posting on social media under a pseudonym. But yet again, People are paying attention, and people who work in law who are breaking these rules are getting caught. And I personally wonder if it's just a matter of time before Mark gets a smackdown, whether it's from the judge, whether it's a gag order of some sort, whether it's from the bar. But how long? How long before somebody goes, yeah, you cannot do this. This has to stop. It's curious. And then lastly, no selfies in the courthouse, which Mark did that. Not in the courthouse. He did that in one of the interview rooms at the jail where you're not supposed to take pictures. He actually took a picture of the sign that says no taking pictures and used that as evidence to say that he was being withheld access to his client. So he didn't tweet that, though. He entered it into evidence, but at any rate, everybody saw it anyway, and it's more of what you're not supposed to do. So I guess all we can do is sit back and wait, because when these kind of tweets come out, we're certainly not the only ones seeing them. Lots of people are seeing them. And lots of people in power, I'm sure, are seeing them and having them forwarded over. So what's going to happen with this? I don't know. Is it possible for attorneys to use social media and not get themselves in trouble with it? I think 100%. However, there's got to be some limits to how it's used. And it seems like maybe Mr. Means is violating that. I have yet to see Prosecutor Wood tweet about this case. Have you? I have yet to see John Pryor tweet about this case. I've yet to see any of the sheriffs tweet about this case, at least personally. No one is doing that except for you, Mr. Means. You may consider taking their lead because this seems to go beyond the pale. But let's talk about one of the funnier parts of this, or more curious ones. An anonymous source called him and told him something very inflammatory. He's tweeted about it multiple times. You can be sure there's going to be some kind of brief about this coming forward when he's stomping his feet and clutching his pearls in front of the court that the prosecutor's definitely doing something terrible again. He's just sure of it. He doesn't have any proof, but somebody said. So if we all called him anonymously and said random rubbish, would he just believe it all? What he is displaying is known as his own prejudice, right? This is his own prejudice. He wants to believe that the prosecutor is doing unsavory things. He wants to believe that everyone's being treated unfairly by the powers that be. He just keeps bringing it up. So his bias got triggered by this phone call, which could be a complete wackadoodle. It could be somebody literally messing with him. It could be a lot of things. It could be somebody who heard some gossip from somebody else and just spilled it to him. It could be anything. It could also have been nobody. You know, we don't know. He doesn't know because it was a block number, right? Yeah. Right. Carly said from the block number, LOL, anyone can have someone block their number and call them. Right. Right. I mean, anyone could have called him and said that. It doesn't make it true, but anyone could call him at this point and say anything. And if it supports his confirmation bias, apparently he's going to believe it and run with it like he did with this. I am gobsmacked. Totally. Paula said it would be hilarious if after this case, Wood files a complaint against him for the unsubstantiated things he said about the prosecution. I wondered about that too, Paula. I don't know that Wood would. I don't know if he would because he is, I don't know, he seems to be above the bar in a lot of ways. And I don't know if he'd go after him, but I wonder if he could as well. There's been a lot of stuff just recently in the brief about Melanie Gibb and why Melanie Gibb should be in trouble and held in contempt for not sending him all of that information that he demanded. He repeatedly goes after the prosecutor yet again. Does he not have a case at all? Is he someone who has the type of personality that really just gets stuck on one topic and can't get off of it? Is it possible that the prosecutor is doing things that aren't above the board? What do you guys think? I mean, I can tell you what I think, but you all know what I think because I say it all the time. But what do you guys think? Also, who do you think called Mark? Just kidding. You don't have to tell me. We could go way into that one. But at any rate, that's what happened. That's the latest. So I thought that might be a great pop-up to just dive into that because who knows, maybe those tweets will get deleted. So, of course, we screenshotted them. But I thought it might be fun to just share a few things and talk about that. If you were being represented by an attorney, how would you feel about them tweeting about your case? Would you be okay with it? Would you maybe think there was some strategy behind it, or would that offend you? He also tweeted recently, he's tweeted 3 times now about people that he's defending. Shared their names and loosely their stories, and that bothered me too. I don't know that I would want my attorney tweeting out to the world. I mean, it is public record once you start into court, but still, do you need your attorney to tweet out to the world? Last week, he tweeted about someone who was sexually assaulted when she was 14, and that was like 10 years ago, and he's now representing her, and he called out her name. And I was pretty shocked about that as well. I don't know. I think somebody needs to probably take the old Twitter away from someone. But that's my opinion. Yeah. Carmen said, I think Means watches too much Law and Order. Yeah, seems like it. And Carly said, I would be sad if Woods wasn't being legal about things, but I truly think he would be by the book. I agree with that. I do. I don't think that he's doing anything he's not supposed to do. I think that Mark doesn't have much of a case, and so he is talking shit because it's all he's got. And I do think he is fixated on the prosecutor, and so anything that hops up that might support his confirmation bias is where all of his energy goes. So we'll see. As always, this is the case that just keeps on giving. But as always, before I wrap up, let's take it back to the beginning. This case is about murdered children and a murdered wife and a murdered husband and maybe a murdered ex-husband. So let's not forget Tylee and JJ and Tammy and Charles, and we're going to throw Joseph in there too. This is the case about a lot of people that were murdered by some really selfish people who wanted to have everything their way. So we'll always wrap up that way when we talk about this case because it's easy to get lost in the details and forget who it's actually about. Innocuous said I would be furious if my lawyer tweeted or talked about anything to do with me. I agree. Brooke said, does Idaho not monitor tweets, etc. from lawyers? It's a good question. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I would hope so. I would think so. But I'm surprised he's gotten away with it for as long as he has. So, and Carly said I'd be losing it as her lawyer too, I guess. Yeah, it's true. Somebody did point out that perhaps he also needs to have a short stint at Blackfoot South to get his head on straight. Oy. All righty, you guys. Well, I'm off to have some fun. I hope you guys are too. So happy Friday. Christy will be back up to pop up tomorrow. You guys have a great night. Take good care of yourselves. Watch some true crime. And thanks for being here so much. You have been watching or listening to True Crime Paranormal with